Listening to all those presentations and everyone up here, it seems that there is a very common theme that we can hear. Every trajectory of change that was already underway of changing, everything has been sped up because of this abrupt transformation of doing all things online. And now we do have a possibility to discuss this a little further on in a panel discussion. I would like to welcome back to the stage Heli Tiirmaa-Klaar, the ambassador at large for cyber diplomacy, Lauri Aasmann, director of cybersecurity at our Information System Authority, Mr. Raul Rikk, the National Cybersecurity Policy Director, and Colonel Jaak Tarien, Director of the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence. We'll have a 15-20 minute discussion, and let me just start this off with a question to all of you. Everyone has had plans. Everyone has had to set goals, allocate budgets, hire people. And now that we are all wary of not only the health impacts of this pandemic, but the economic impacts of our revenues and everything like that, how people are working, what has to change in your line of cybersecurity? What has to change in your organization to meet those challenges that the economy is going to pose? And maybe start with Lauri, because I really want to know about my job security there as well.
Right. Well, your question started me thinking that actually we have not had to make cuts in our work, and everything that we had been doing before, we are doing now, and we had continued doing during the crisis months. So I would say that the IT houses or the ICT services have taken perhaps even a boost upwards. So we need to make sure that all our systems are up and running. So if at all, then we are affected, so to say, in a positive way. So there is no danger that we will go out of work at any time soon. So
that's a good thing to hear. But but let's extend this question to everyone else here as well. Heli, how does this change the way not only Estonia does business, but the rest of the world that we need to work with in terms of plans for this year, the United Nations, and so on?
Our work certainly has been disrupted, and all these working groups that had been planned are either cancelled or virtual. But quite often the international politics doesn't work like we can imagine to do a conference or seminar. We can do virtually, but if you need to have a consensus around the table amongst certain number of countries, then we have to be physically present, because these are the procedures of the international organizations. So and therefore some of the gatherings and meetings have been postponed already now for the next year. We hope to have some of the virtual meetings. We don't know when we are able to travel to New York physically. But I think what happens with our foreign service cyber teams, not just in Estonia, but globally, possibly would be I'm trying to look at the positive side. Possibly we would be having more time to read about our subject. There is 700-page book called Tallinn Manual.
Yes,
so
I've heard, yes.
Everybody can have time now to read it all. So 700 pages. And also I hope that our teams will be not scrapped and we can retain the workforce we already have, and we have been training those diplomats also in Tallinn. And there is the Tallinn Cyber Diplomacy Summer School that we did last year. This year, we possibly will postpone this, and it will be possibly winter school instead of summer school, but maybe we do something virtually at some point. We don't know. So in a way, yes, this uncertainty is certainly affecting our work, but at the same time, I hope that the capability that we have now to discuss all these international issues and international law and norms will be there, and this will not be going to evaporate. So we certainly shouldn't let that happen. So.
Yeah, the Tallinn manual was addressed here, Jaak. This is something that your Center of Excellence is responsible for, and also responsible for a lot of other plans, great plans that were made for this year and the next. How have those plans changed?
Yeah, in military we have a saying that no plan ever survives first contact with the enemy, but in this case I would use 1980s boxers Mike Tyson saying that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Really, this pandemic was a punch in the face to the world, to everybody. We are a training organization. We had to cancel all in-house courses naturally. We learned that we need to shift more to distance learning. Even though there is still that old school kind of a thinking that no, some things just need to be taught face-to-face in a classroom, we had to take another look. Really, can we do it online to a similar effect or 90% benefit? So we're looking to change some of our courses to online courses. Yes, today was supposed to be the opening day of our conference, SciCon. It's not. You can't have conferences. Locked Shields, the world's largest international live fire cybersecurity exercise, was cancelled. You would think that it's online, right? Well, 300 people of the organizational team would still need to work together in the same room, and you can't do that. So the impact was big. We're trying to reorganize our work so that to make up some of those things in the fall, some of the courses you can't make up SciCon or Locked Shields. So we try to make them greater next year. Thankfully, we have trust of our nations. We are very cost efficient. Our annual budget is only 1.3 million with an M, euro per year. So very, very low budget to make all those things happen that we do. So our 25 member nations are not decreasing our budget. Their contribution stays the same. So I think once the world figures out how to defeat the pandemic, we'll go on full force.
Raul, how do you see this change for this year and possibly into the next?
I think that the impact is not there yet. So we don't know how the new budget will look like. But one thing is sure, that we cannot cut the national cybersecurity budget. And the reason is very simple, that before the crisis we had made plans that we can easily increase the budget 2-3 times. So there are a lot to do, and the pandemic has also showed that the need for ICT solutions is even greater than before. So in order to keep up with this development, we have to pay more attention to ICT systems, to different applications and solutions, and accordingly, we have to pay much more attention to cybersecurity as well. So if other areas would like to cut their budgets, then in the cybersecurity area, I would say that there is no simple way of doing that.
Let me continue with you, Raul. I'm going to give you all a couple of questions that we've had from some of our viewers. And let me just read them out, especially with 5G, and 5G is still being developed, and we're still looking at this whole transformation to 5G in general. There is a question from Mauritius that with 5G coding, robotics and artificial intelligence will drastically change. How do you see cybersecurity can find and handle the loopholes found in coding? We're talking about hardware and the same vendor security that we're talking about in general.
Yeah.
How do you answer that?
Yeah, there's no easy answer. That's what the nations have been struggling with. Because there's very simple examples. If we print out Microsoft Office software, it's going to be millions of pages text. Who can actually audit that? If there is going to be new updates of software, we cannot hold back of implementing the software because of the security audit. So we do months security audit and we will implement. It's not possible this way. So I would say that this is really a challenge, how to make sure that the technology is produced securely. And as I mentioned in the presentation, that it's practically impossible. Also, there's big countries like US, France, Germany, who have cybersecurity agencies, over 1,000 people working there, struggle with this issue. And they can only control very small amount of hardware and software 100%. So I would say that for smaller countries who don't have this kind of resources, it's mission impossible. That's why the question of the trustworthiness of the technology providers is such a great question, that how to do that. So instead of controlling, or instead of making sure that the technology is secure, we have to create these trustworthy relationships with the technology providers.
Thank you. Some organizations have to control their communications, such as military organizations, which cannot just rely on these providers. There's a question for you, Jaak, from Mauritius. We have a very active Mauritian following here. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to answer this one without revealing any of your very tightly held secrets. Communications and connectivity, essential considerations, of course. What cyber defense strategy does NATO have to protect fiber submarine cables, thus ensuring the connectivity to your allies? And can you answer that one?
Well, those are tightly held secrets that I don't know. And if I did, I would say the same thing. I don't know. But we rely on the member nations that have the military means to conduct control and defense of such cables. Not every member nation has a submarine fleet. Really, in this case, NATO doesn't have any capability of its own. It relies on some of the member nations.
Raul, you wanted to add to that?
Just very short adding that actually these countries who have sea borders, they are in a much better position than the countries who are landlocked. So if you have the sea cables through what you exchange the data, you can at least do something about the cables. But if you're a landlocked country, then you depend totally on the neighboring countries. So Mauritius in this case is much better positioned than many others.
All right, I hope you're hearing this, Mauritius. Heli, there is a question. This is a question about the same cyber norms that we've been talking about. Let's play a hypothetical question that everyone around that table agrees that not to attack each other's critical infrastructure. Let's play this hypothetical game. What are the discussions and how could these norms be enforced?
Well, I think there are already proposals on the table how these norms could be enforced in those two working groups we have under the UN First Committee. And soon we are going to work on the open-ended working group report, which we are hoping to see soon. And it will be released possibly later this week. And some countries have already proposed their views how those UN cyber norms could be implemented. So there are very clear guidelines already taught out how this could happen. So as we have 13 or something norms there, so do you want me to go?
No, it's
11
not
norms
right
plus
now.
more.
But I'm just
yes, there is a plan.
about, like how this.
There is a plan.
Okay. Good. In terms of this change of plan, Lauri, there's a question about like how has this still changed the cyber attack surface and threat actors? Has working from home, studying from home, has this increased the attack surface for cyber crime?
Well, the short answer is that I believe so. Yes. In addition to what you were asking, what the crisis has done is that it has brought many nations up to speed very fast. So as I mentioned in my talk previously, we have a lot of new users of different services, a big variety of services, and that obviously creates a good attack surface. So both on citizen level, it has taught like a quick lesson on how to become a modern user of ICT services, but it has also helped many nations to kind of make a quick course in evolution, so to say, on how to start using those modern technologies. But yes, the attack surface has widened.
Let me close this discussion part with a topic that we haven't actually addressed, which is very important for a lot of countries, which is the cybersecurity is often thought of as also disinformation, misinformation, so on and so forth. We haven't discussed this, and let me just shortly ask each one of you to address this in a way. We're talking about not only disinformation in terms of like the pandemic, but also disinformation regarding 5G, disinformation of propaganda regarding military and defense, and also the question of different countries using this disinformation question to censor their own citizens. I'm just going to go through the list and ask everyone to address this. First of all, should we be discussing this as a cybersecurity threat? And how do you see this play out, this disinformation, misinformation question in your role, in your organization? Jaak, could you start us off, please?
It is a very serious threat. It is not specifically cyber threat, cybersecurity threat. Disinformation and propaganda has been there before digital technology. Nothing new. Cyber is an enabler how to push disinformation rapidly, massively to a big number of people. So do the Western societies need to really worry about it, have a strategy? Yes. Do we need to understand how cyber means are used for this? Yes, we do. It's not particularly a cybersecurity issue, it's an information issue.
Raul, does the state need to protect its citizens from disinformation, misinformation regarding 5G or whatever consumer questions are out there?
Yeah, certainly we have to understand how this information is spread or distributed. But I agree with Jaak here that there is the areas touch each other, but this is not particularly the cybersecurity area. I have a cliche example here that we can compare it with the water supply system. So there is the pipes, like you can see in this room here as well, a lot of different pipes, and there is the water inside of the pipes. So basically, this information is related to the water quality, but cybersecurity is related to the plumbing. So basically, how secure are the pipes and how they are connected and etc. So these are very, very separatable areas. But as Jaak mentioned, we have to understand how the cyber means or cyber tools could be used for distributing misinformation.
Some of this tactical, some of this misinformation comes from actually stealing things through cyber means. Lauri, how does this misinformation, how is this connected to compromising systems, and has this changed this time now? Has this changed anything?
Well, one thing we need to separate here is that there are big national or state-sponsored campaigns to influence like events in other countries, and those are what we normally understand as information operations. But then there are small-scale criminal organizations backed attempts to deceive people, and this is what we see on a daily basis, and there certainly we have to see what the aim of the criminals are, and if you talk about phishing or malware campaigns, then those are also related with misinformation, just making people believe that they are doing something, but actually they are doing something different. And if the goal is to gain money out of it, then it eventually becomes our problem and the law enforcement's problem. So yes, we have a role in there.
All right. And Heli, finally, you talk to the other countries who see this as a cyber problem often.
I think many countries might, of course, also have a view that yes, misinformation, disinformation is important from the cyber angle, but I agree with previous speakers here that misinformation issue is cyber-enabled issue, as many other cyber-enabled issues are out there which we are concerned about. But when we talk about these cyber norms and state behavior, then we mostly talk about attacking infrastructures and attacking the real cyber information infrastructure type of subjects. So the misinformation does not concern us so much. But of course, different countries are viewing this topic differently. And for instance, some of the countries have put elections on the list of the critical services and critical infrastructure. So if some of the countries would call this as a critical service or infrastructure for their society, maybe then we would consider it differently. But right now we think it's a bit separate issue from cybersecurity issue.
All right, thank you very much. And we will be concluding this webinar with this. Thank you to our speakers and their contribution. And thank you to all you viewers and everybody who submitted questions. Before we go, I would like to take this opportunity and promote our publication, Cybersecurity in Estonia 2020, one more time. This is available at the Estonian Information System Authority's website, ria.ee, ria.ee. On behalf of the Estonian Information System Authority and everybody who is present here, I would like to thank you once more and wish you health, stay safe, stay healthy. Have a good day.